Could you explain your role in the Kansas City, Missouri School District during the years between 1971 and 1997?
In 1996 is when I came to the Kansas City, Missouri School District. And during that time I was hired at J.S. Chick African Centered School, and I taught 4th grade during that time. During that time, they had the magnet schools, and that's when they were really trying to integrate schools. And however, J.S. Chick was not a magnet school. It was a traditional school. So our role was just a little bit different. We did not receive the finances that the magnet schools received. It was our budget was very different. And I do remember during that time going to the board with parents and the school administration and other faculty to talk about our concerns regarding our ADA in terms of what we received in comparison to the magnet schools. I think the parents and students, I think it was kind of mixed feelings in terms of what students were receiving and why they were receiving it. I think we all understand that the purpose of the magnet schools was to actually bring more white students into the school district. So on one hand, you know, parents and students enjoyed the new facilities because, I mean, the buildings, they needed the renovations that they received. And students needed the resources that they were receiving. However, I think parents understood, many of the parents understood the why, and so that made it difficult to kind of enjoy the blessings. I think it was probably, again, the mixed feelings, because I know for my own self, my thought was, why not really serve the students that are there and let them receive those benefits based on who they are and actually meeting the needs of the students in the district. And if other students came, that would be even better. But I think the reasoning behind made it very difficult because it was almost more of an experiment to see if it would actually work. So, you know, understanding white flight, knowing that many white families moved, it made the tax base different in Kansas City, Missouri. And so, you know, it was kind of difficult when you really think about it. I taught 4th graders. I'm not sure if they even understood in a lot of ways. But I know at J.S. Chick, our students loved their school. They loved the theme behind the school. It was African centered. They loved the fact that they were doing academically very well. So I don't really know if they understood the purpose and understanding that. I think because we were a traditional school, it was hard because we were always seeking the finances and the resources that magnet schools had, and we didn't have them. And so it was a constant conversation as to what do we do here, how can we change things for, for the better of our students. I mean, we've done well in spite of, but we did have hard conversations, with the board. I know our administration did.
Do you remember what some of those conversations were about?
The biggest conversation was, why do we not receive the same per pupil monies as magnet schools? And because our students were doing very well academically, I mean, we had the test results to show that our students were progressing well in spite of, but still we didn't get anywhere with that. I think specifically for J.S. Chick, there was just a high standard of expectation. And so teachers worked hard with their students, and whether we had the resources or not. And so the outcome was always to do our best no matter what. That was always our effort to do that. I think if it was a real reality, it would have been an awesome time for diversity to be real. But I know at J.S. Chick, we might have had one white student periodically. And still in many of the schools, the numbers were so low, in terms of white students and diversity. It would have been it was a great thought. I think I would say that. It was a great thought. It was in terms of diversity, but I don't think the process worked. I think when you actually look at the community, our Kansas City is diverse in the urban core, but yet the schools aren't diverse because they're private schools and other things like that. But I think it would make a difference in the way we are today. If we just think about what's going on across the nation, even today as we speak, I think it would make a great difference, because we would have the opportunity to engage with one another and engage in such a way that we would unite, and that's really where we need to be. Whatever occurred, it didn't maintain, and it was sort of like there was concerns with having state-of-the-art facilities and then not being able to maintain those facilities. And it's the same way with the progress in the district during that time. They were not able to maintain what they were trying to do. That's a question. I was thinking about it. We ask questions like that and we make the answer hard, and it's really not a hard question for me. And that would be, it's in the teacher. And one of the things that I've done in my own research is work at preparing teachers for urban schools. And I think that's important. And it doesn't matter if the teacher's white, African American, Hispanic, Asian. Urban school is a different place, urban schools. So preparing all teachers to be ready to teach in those schools, I think is one of the things that we do to help and to change and reform. And I think in that reform, we're talking about relationships and the notion of caring, because for the most part, most institutions, they are preparing teachers to almost just teach toward the test. That's really, we talk about standards and high stakes testing, all that's important, but if a child hasn't eaten, if the child has had a difficult night, and you know, when the student comes in and the first thing you want to set in front of the student is, you know, paper and pencil and like get this work done without questioning to see how their day, how their evening was, and to really get them to open up and trust and all those kinds of things. You know, and those are simple things. You know, the notion of caring is really simple, but as teachers, we have the mindset now is, you know, high stakes testing, without, we talk child-centered, but then we don't teach child-centered in so many ways, and the evidence is there. And I think another option would be to really look at the option of charter schools, giving parents other options, and that's what charter schools do. And I've worked and been an administrator in a charter school, and we had the same exact students, all from Kansas City, Missouri. But what made, I think what the difference there was, we sort of really vetted our teachers. And if you really didn't have the mindset of, you know, loving and caring and building those relationships with students first, then we just suggested that might not be the school for you. And so we had at that time, and even now the school still goes on, they have a strong faculty from K-12 that really, really puts that in place, and you can actually see it live in living color in the urban core. And of course, it's not the only school, but it's one that I'm quite familiar with. And it just does the simple things first. And yet, again, they do very well. And even when I was at JS Chick, that was the motivating factor. That was the front factor, that caring, building those relationships. And then one thing that many times we do not look forward to or reach out to as we should, and that's parents. Parent involvement is key, and the research shows that. And at that particular charter school, we had 100% parent participation. And if you look at many of the suburban school districts, they have strong parent participation. And we can't say that a child's SES or their cultural background sets the tone for their destination, because it doesn't. It's really in that teacher. That's the promise maker and keeper. That's the person that holds the power. We as teachers, we're with the children more than their parents. So we have all the time in the world to bless their lives in a major way. And we just have to really pick up the baton and do what we say we are, teach.
And you said that you came here to the Kansas City, Missouri School District in 1996. Where were you before that?
I was in Kansas City, Kansas, public school, and then a private school in Kansas City, Kansas.
How different was it different, the school landscape between 1971 and 1997 in terms of school desegregation? In Kansas City, Kansas, the school district was much more diverse.
much more diverse. So that was different. And then in the private school that I came from, it was all African American. You know, parents came there by choice. But in KCK, it was an interesting school in that it was located in the Argentine area, and it was a year-round school. And they had done a lot of work and research and so forth in the development of that school. But they had they had very strong parent support. I remember during that time doing lots of home visitations, and parents were in the building on a regular basis. And again, it's an urban school district. Mm-hmm.